Hey, welcome to another episode of Seduction Tech. This is Keu Reyes coming at you with a special person. Like I say, everybody that's here is because they're special, very special. And I also like to talk to people that I want to talk to. For me, and I'm sure that if you're like me, then you're going to really enjoy this because we have someone, I got to say, someone, it's an entrepreneur, uh, mega smart, uh, visionary, in a lot of different senses. And with no more introduction than that, we have Christian Kenny on the SeductionEd podcast. How you doing, Christian?
Hey, how are you? Happy to be here.
I'm loving the beard. I'm so behind it. Now you made me feel almost inadequate here.
Oh, this is only a couple of years. It takes a while.
Do you do special like oil? Because mine is very dry and
Nah, I stay away from those oils. Those oils are horrible.
really.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
stay away from that. Yeah, I've used them for a while in the beginning, but I noticed that they when I don't use them, it made it worse than it ever was. So I just stopped using them altogether.
Thanks for the tip. Maybe that is the problem because it kind of brittle. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. Yours looks like it's very fluffy. Huh?
Well, the longer it gets, it changes. To like at the beginning, it's very like scrunched up and itchy and brittle. But like as it grows longer and longer, the hair changes.
Okay, interesting. Well, everyone, that's not what the podcast is about. But you're welcome, everyone. Now you know to stay away from those oils, or maybe you need to come up with an oil yourself. Because first, you're. I was reading through your bio, and you're an entrepreneur in the all sense of the word. Like you don't just you create some really awesome things. Like, can you tell us a little bit about you, like who you are right now? Who's Christian this moment?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I guess entrepreneur is definitely a cool label to put on it. If I had to give myself another cool word, maybe like just like creator or architect or something like I just if I'm interested in something, I'll create it, and I like to create things. That's like my main goal. So like even with projects that I create, right? It's never like you know I'm doing this because it's going to make X amount of dollars, right? I'm creating this because I need to see it physically. I need to create this because it hasn't been done before, whatever the situation is, right? And like you just said, there's not really a limit to what I do, right? So like make books, card games, tarot decks, board games, software, video games, websites. There's products, health products. I mean, there's not really anything that I haven't dabbled in for the most part. So now I'm just kind of like this publishing house that either A, we create our own stuff, or B, people hit us up and they're like, hey, I have this great idea. I want to create this product. And we basically lay it out for them like, hey, this is how it's done. This is what it's going to cost. And this is how long it's going to take. We don't say yes to everybody. Like I was just telling you in the off scene here, I get a lot of emails, and if I don't think it's a cool idea or an original idea, or I don't believe in it, we're not going to move forward with it. I won't even, lay it out for you because we receive so many messages.
Nice. I mean, basically you work out of principle, not out of a dollar. You're not following that dollar sign. You're following that great creation. So that says a lot about you. And how did you get to the tarot? For example, because as an entrepreneur, as yourself, obviously you have a very spiritual side to you. I'm assuming. Tell us about that. Like, how do we go from who you are in a creator into the tarot card? Like, that's a very specific place.
Sure. So, I guess I definitely could be considered a very spiritual person. Sure. Although it really depends on what the definition of spiritual is, because that's a very widely defined term, and it's defined differently by a lot of people. But my interest in tarot bubbles into my interest in the occult and mysticism and stuff like that. And I've been studying that since I'm like 12 years old. Just something that I was interested in. I find interest in things that are a bit odd, or are a bit of the black sheep category, or not the beaten path, right? So like some most people are going to go this way. I'm going to go that way just for the heck of it, and tarot is just it's a really good tool. I wouldn't consider tarot spiritual, although it can be used in spiritual practice and spiritual people do use it. But tarot, in what it is not spiritual. It's just cards with paper and images on them. And those images have symbols and colors, and they correlate to certain signs and certain figures. And, tarot is the same as astrology. They're exactly the same thing. Numerology, all the same thing. People think that they're separate spiritual modalities, but they're not spiritual at all. They're just tools, right? So the same thing I could tell you with astrology is the same thing I could tell you with tarot. And when I'm reading tarot, I'm reading astrology. And when I'm reading astrology, I'm reading tarot. It's all the same thing. It's just that tarot is a little bit easier to digest because we're all visual learners for the most part, and we all surf the web and social media, so we have ADD brain, right? So tarot makes it a little bit easier so that people can look at pictures, rather than when you're doing astrology, you're quite literally looking at a graph chart with numbers and squares, and you probably, if you've seen it, you'd have no idea what you're looking at.
Absolutely. So, because I understand what you're saying about, and it's tarot, right? Because I always call it tarot. I don't know why. But
Both are correct. Everybody, I've heard every name in the book for tarot. Tarot, you know what I'm saying? It's all the same.
Yeah. Well, the tarot, to me, for example, even in my own journey, where even I'm doing this, it's seduction education, but really, it's really more human dynamic. It's just something that I've always been interested in. But I think there is something spiritual even in the path that we take. My own belief that makes me feel better about my direction, because I feel like I'm a believer in destiny, and I think that you cannot be a believer in destiny and in free will at the same time. If you believe destiny is meant to happen and doesn't matter, me and you were going to have this conversation before we were born. That's destiny. To make free will part of that, then I will be able to make rain stop. It's like, well, let my free will stop the rain. There's things that are just meant to be. Do you believe that tarot has that, whereas it's meant to be, or are there forces moving? Let's say I'm throwing cards. Are there forces moving those cards, or that was just destiny? You're just looking at what it is, what it's meant to be.
I think it's a lot more. It's much more simpler than that. First off, tarot, to put this in layman's terms, is very similar to your car. In order for your car to be used as a tool, it requires two things: you and the key. You have to turn the car on, and you have to drive it. And we can add gas into there. The car itself is absolutely useless without you and the key and gas. It does not do anything. The car is not a magical thing. The car gets from place to place because you are driving the car. So it's the same exact situation with tarot. I see a lot of people give up their own power and give up their own energy and like to credit the tarot for being this magical thing or this universal thing, and something else is moving the cards. It's all you. You're bringing the energy. You're bringing the intention. It's all you. The cards aren't doing anything, right? So to answer that question, no, it's not some magical mystical thing that are guiding the cards and everything. It's all you. It's all coming from you. It's your intuition. It's your energy. You're pulling those cards. And if you're reading for somebody else and they're in front of you, their energy gets accounted into that too. But the cards themselves are not giving you energy. They're not predicting the future. They're not doing anything. It's just like the car metaphor. It's just a tool. Everything is already inside of you. You're just using this as a tool that over time, if you do it well and you do it for a long time, you don't need the tarot cards, period, right? Because you've developed that skill, you've developed that intuition, and you could actually do the same thing you were doing with the tarot cards with just yourself.
Understood. Understood. So in seduction, if you put seduction and tarot together, like it's a weird mix. Do you think these two could go together? Could they help each other, or maybe just tarot help seduction?
Well, seduction, can you give me a quick definition of
Yeah,
what you're defining seduction as?
seduction will be attraction. See, seduction to me is that without that, our parents would have never met. Either your dad or your mom, someone has to make a move towards getting a mate. If we want to go really basic on it, like it's just mating.
Okay.
You need without if human beings were not attracted to each other, we would have been dead. So there. I think it's a huge driving force in everything we do. Guys got they buy cars, they work hard so they can get money, so they can attract a mate. Or we wear clothes so we can. Everything we do, our identity, a lot of it is shaped. Not all of it, but a lot of it is shaped by us wanting to be attracted to the people that we want to be attracted to, so we can get a mate. Blah blah blah. In a very basic, sense. So, in order to do that better, will tarot be something that could be used to, I don't know, help guide you? Is this the right person for you? All the way to what can you do to become a better, more attractive person?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because, the first question you asked, like, the differences between the two, the similarities between the two. Well, they're both built around understanding human desire, right? What people want, what they fear, what they hide, what we project onto other people. And tarot can illuminate all of those things, right? But the real question really is in what way, right? So are we saying we're going to pull cards and say like, oh, how do I seduce this person? And this, that, and the third one. And that might not be the best question. You'll get an answer, sure. But the real thing you should be asking is like, what do I need to do to improve myself and be my best self? And if you don't want to ask that question, instead of asking, does this person, because I get like, does this person like me? Or how do I seduce this person? Or yada, yada, yada. But what you should be asking is this healthy for me? Is this a good direction to go down? Is this a good path? Is this a good partner? Right? We get kind of caught up on like what we want and we forget about what we actually need. So yes, it can be used, although I do see a lot of people misusing it for that exact thing.
And what if I don't listen to it, right? What if something comes up where it says, hey, this path you're going or this person is probably not beneficial for whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going to pursue this. It, I mean, obviously it's telling you it's not good. Do you recommend that? I mean, or like, I think we get obsessed with what we think. So when we just want the tarot to tell us that we're right, right? I'm asking, but really I want it to tell me that I'm right, that I should pursue this path or this person. And when it tells me no, now I have to make a choice. Do I listen or do I go forward? What do you recommend? I mean, what happens if I go forward? I mean, how?
I can't necessarily recommend anything. That has to do with you. You know what I'm saying? I think if you're asking me what would I do,
Yeah.
right? I would listen to what the cards are trying to tell me, right? I would listen to what my intuition is telling me about the cards. That's what I would listen to, right? Because I've been down that path of, yeah, I'll just do what I want. And you can only do that so many times before you end up in the same place again and again and again until you say like, oh, you know what? Let me try something different. Let me actually listen to the advice, listen to the intuition and see where that goes. Failed 10 times before. Let's try something different.
Okay. So do you believe seduction, and when like we talked about the definition, just and from a man perspective too, like if do you believe it is intuition or is it strategy? Do you learn to be seductive? Do you learn how to speak to women? Do you learn how to attract a mate, or do you just have it in you, or you don't?
Well, both, because seduction in its purest form happens naturally, but you can perform seduction in a strategic way. And yeah, you could probably get what you want. It may not be what you need, and it may not last, and you may not like it after you have it because it wasn't meant for you. And I would call that manipulation, right? And a lot of what seduction is when it's not natural is manipulation, right? Um, and I see a lot of people who do that. Yes, and it does work, and it does work.
And do
Not for
you?
the best, but it does work.
No, that's what I mean. I think that if you're looking for advice and guidance, and you still decide not to use then what's the point? If you already had your mind set, or actually even better, if I already have my mind set, is that my intuition? Or am I just being, like even without the tarot or looking into.
If you already have, well, that depends. Like, right? That depends on the situation, right? Is your mind set and you're making excuses for every red flag that comes up? Or is your mind set and you're actually paying attention, right? The mind's a very powerful thing. You can, I put this, your mind's like a computer, okay? You can program a computer to do anything you want. Your mind is the same exact way. If you have gone through the trials and tribulations and have had the growth necessary to have that full control over your mind, you could convince yourself anything and your mind and body will follow, right? You know, is it a good idea to gaslight yourself all the way to the finish line? Probably not, right? So you're asking if you're so dead set on this and you're ignoring the red flags. I mean, I think it's common sense. Like you would think like what the outcome is of that. It's probably not going to be good. It's going to be another lesson. And you could either take the outcome of that as a lesson and integrate it and become better, or you could ignore it and keep repeating the same patterns. And I think a lot of people end up doing that, where they keep repeating the same exact pattern over and over and over again, thinking they're going to get different results. If you're constantly going after the same type of mate, whether it's a man or a female, and you're constantly making excuses for red flag after red flag, and you're going after the same type of person, and you know deep down in your conscience that it's not the right way to do things, you're just going to keep getting the same results over and over and over again. And I see this in tarot cards. I see this in astrology charts. I could look at somebody's astrology chart and I could say, you're never going to be happy. You're just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over again. That's not necessarily true, right? The likelihood is pretty high, but that person, like we were speaking about free will before, they have the free will to make that change. So a lot of people just don't make that change.
Understood. But can your intuition be wrong?
No, your intuition can't be wrong. If you're truly listening to your intuition, no, it can't be wrong.
So like if let's say I like a girl and I don't know, it's not working out and I'm just stuck. I'm like, no, I think I can turn things around, or I can make this relationship work, or whatever it is. That stubbornness. I'm trying to define, I guess, intuition so we can understand it, like people that maybe haven't delved into it. Like, what is it, that little voice inside you? Is it a feeling? And if it can be wrong, then you should always listen to it, even if it's telling you something that
You need to make sure that you're actually listening to your intuition, right? There's discernment there, right? Are you listening to your intuition? Are you listening to your ego? Are you listening to your emotions? Are you listening to your hormones? Are you listening to your physical urges? You need to be able to tell the difference of all in order to make that decision. I think that, you did bring something up, like you say, Nick, you're in a situation and you're not sure if you should continue or if you should leave this person, whatever it is. This is one thing I know about love and relationships is we all have this fairy tale idea that, you find the right one and it's going to be perfect, hunky dory. And sometimes that's the case, sure. But real love and real relationships is all about growth. And there needs to be ups and downs. Imagine going on a roller coaster for 10 years straight. After a week, you're going to be crying because it's the same thing over and over again, and you no longer feel that thrill. Same thing with love. After a certain amount of time, you may not feel that initial love, right? But as you go on with that person, you develop this different kind of love, similar, but it's a different kind of love. And it's an unbreakable kind of love because you have grown together, right? It's very different from the initial onset. And with a lot of relationships, I get questions and I hear a lot of people like, oh, I don't think my intuition is telling me this is not the one, this is the third. I said, well, I can't really tell. I can't give you an answer for that, right? We could pull some cards and see what the situation is and what the capabilities are, sure. But if you're looking for love, you got to build that. You got to grow that. That's not something you just find. It's got to be built.
Do you think love is also is love real? Let me tell you my philosophy. I believe, and I'm not saying I'm wrong or right, but
Okay.
that love is just a really a hormonal imbalance, right? I believe it's not type romantic, but I believe it's just like in seduction in a scientific way. You have oxytocin, you have dopamine, serotonin, all these hormones that when you meet this person, you think they're the one, or you click or whatever it is, that all these hormones kind of spike up and you feel love and you feel they can't do no wrong and everything's pink. And then as these hormones start leveling out and you start getting to know this person, some things those spikes start kind of normalizing, and then what ends up being is that in that relationship is really like a business partnership almost, where are we compatible in our path, not out of a love feeling, but out of can we be together for extreme time, years, for the rest of our lives. Because I don't think that love is going to be there because, like I said, just the imbalances. Or is that too anti-romantic? Do you believe that love there's a bigger force behind it that drives us? Which one do you think?
I think you're making it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. I think it's pretty simple, like I was saying before, it's something you build. It's something you grow. That initial seduction, that initial love, that initial hormones, all that stuff, that's there. It's not here to stay, but it's there to get you in the door, right? But there's work to be done, right? And I wouldn't call it a business relationship. I would call it maybe a working relationship, right? Because you're working on you, she's working on her, and you guys are working on each other together, right? You're making her better, she's making you better, and together you're making yourselves better, right?
Okay, that makes sense. So can you choose that? Can I choose, I'm going to love her? Or like what is that? And I know I don't want to use magic, right? But what is that thing that goes from you not knowing someone to you just wanting to be around this person, thinking about this person, and feeling great around this person? Like, what is it?
Can you choose? Yes. What is that thing? Is based off of a lot of patterns in your life, right? What makes you attracted to somebody is pattern recognition, right? So how the human brain works is as a baby, you see a bottle and we say bottle. The brain recognizes this image as bottle, 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 right? That's how the brain works. right? So as you go about life, everything that your brain absorbs is the same. It's pattern recognition. So there's certain things that happen in your life that attribute to what attracts you and what you're attracted to, right? So yes, you can choose, but most people don't choose, right? If you had full control over your brain, you can convince yourself to be attracted to anything and anybody, right? You could convince yourself to be attracted to the other sex if you wanted to, right? Because your brain is that powerful. But most people don't do that, right? Most people aren't at that degree, and I wouldn't recommend anybody to want to be at that degree because that comes with serious consequence, and it's not a happy time, right? That's serious responsibility. But when you're attracted to somebody, when you fall in love with somebody, it's based off of things in your life that can be attributed to pattern recognition. There's also instinct, right? Depending on, your genetics and your bloodline, there are signals that can gear you towards a certain person and make you attracted towards a certain person, right? Maybe in your family, fertility is a problem, and a lot of the women in your family have lost children. So you're predisposed to look for women who have larger hips, because larger hips means larger space for the babies to grow, which means a higher chance of the baby surviving, right? That could be a genetic reason, right? And then again, if you're talking about the facial feature, that there's so many different things. So yes, you can choose, although most people do not.
Understood. And what about choosing to stop love? Is that possible?
People choose that every day. That's a battle. Could be done. Could be done for sure. It's not an easy battle, right? Depending on the situation, there's degrees to that. Because there's a 1 alarm fire, there's a 5 alarm fire. You know what I'm saying? It depends how deep you're in. You understand?
Can tarot help you in that path?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what tarot essentially does is it reveals yourself to yourself. And you just have to be open enough to accept that, right? It's the extreme version of that would be like eating 5 grams of mushrooms. And when you take 5 grams of mushrooms, for example, you are effectively breaking down all of the walls and all of the acting and masks and shows and stuff that you've been putting on and the people around you have been putting on falls down, and you see everything for what it is. And when that happens, it exposes yourself to yourself, and you might not like what you see, right? And people often make a very simple decision after something like that. They either take what they learned and they integrate it into their life and they become a better person because of it, or they say, nah, I'm going to try and forget that this ever happened, and I'm going to go right back to doing what I'm doing, and I'm just going to be a regular human being and do whatever I want to do, right? Those are usually the two choices. And it's kind of the same thing with tarot, although tarot is a little bit less invasive and a little bit more like light, right? Taking the 5 grams of mushrooms is like, taking an Adderall, whereas like, the tarot is like a cup of tea, right? So it's lightly informing you. You just have to be open and receiving to digest and understand and integrate what it's telling you. And you keep asking similar questions, and it's very funny that you're asking these questions, because like when I'm doing a reading for somebody, and most readings are in the relationship sector, right? Everybody's always asking about relationships, and it's usually a female that I'm reading for, and they'll be like, does this guy like me, right? But then like they'll get the answer and they don't like the answer, so they'll ask the same exact question a little bit differently, and they'll get the same answer, right? Or they'll dance around that question a million different ways with a million different questions, but it's still the same question. And they always fail to ask the important question, right? Which is like, is this healthy for me? Is this the right path? Is there anything that I need to work on so that I can be on the right path? I could bring the right frequency. I could bring the right energy so I can attract what's meant for me or what's needed for me to grow.
Yeah. Well, you think that is because we, as human beings, we're looking for external answers to internal issues. So, for example, if I want to know something about my life and I go to you, there's a little nature that goes, I want to know about them, about, is that the job? Is that all the external things? Is that the person? Is that the money over there? I, like, I don't think I will go, and I'm speaking of me, but I wouldn't go to be like, hey, tell me where I'm lacking, right? So that I can be better, because that's uncomfortable. I don't, one, the answer I'm not going to like, but two, like for example, I will fail to see, well, how does that help me get a better job? Or how does that help me get a better partner? Or how do, you know what I mean? Like we don't see the correlation, between self, looking at it internally and just self, examination and external outcomes. Do you believe that tarot helps you? It's like that bridge between manifestation, like you is telling you, look, improve here, do this, make these moves within you, and you will have the results that you're searching for. Will tarot be like a bridge that will help me become better that way?
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point. But most people don't use it properly, right? So, like, a lot of the projects that I do are based on solving those social problems, right? So, like, one of the biggest social problems with tarot is that tarot is really good for everything you just said. It's good for that shadow work, right? People don't use it for the shadow work. People use it as a badge of honor, a badge of spirituality, trying to make money and trying to get ahead, all these things, and they keep missing the one important part, which is the self. It's very rare, very, very, very rare that you run into somebody who uses tarot properly and has done the shadow work and is still doing the shadow work and is still doing the work onward and forwards forever, right? Because it doesn't stop. Um, Most people are just using it like, a day at the ice cream shop, you know. And, one of the projects that we did recently, I wanted to tackle that issue, and I also wanted to tackle, a separate issue. So we made a deck that kind of forces people to confront their shadow, right? And we did it. We did an excellent job on it. It worked probably better than I ever thought it could. Ruffled a lot of feathers. But yeah, a lot of people just don't do that work that needs to be done. And the funny part is a lot of these people that don't do that work and aren't doing the shadow work and aren't using tarot properly are the same people that people who don't know anything about tarot are looking up to for answers, right? They're either paying for a reading from this person or they're subscribed to their channel and they're listening to their talks and whatever it is. Meanwhile, this person hasn't actually done it, right? Or isn't doing it, or refuses to do it, and is using the tarot as like a podium to a politician, right?
Well, and does it reveal the future? The tarot reveals the future, or is it your own subconscious? Like what's the reading? And by the way, do you see this as a scientific, like when you're doing a reading, to you, is it more science or spiritual? Like, do you see it like like astrology? You could see almost like it's a science almost. Do you see tarot about the same?
You hit me with way too many questions. Science and spirituality are kind of the same thing. But what was the question before that?
Well, the question before that is it revealing your subconscious when you the tarot, or is it the future, or is it psychology? What is it revealing? Yeah, is it from within you?
Tarot does not predict the future. Tarot does not predict the future. That's not what it does.
No?
In my humble opinion, I do not think, again, everything that you've heard so far for the past 35 minutes, whoever's listening, the things that I am saying are my views. They do not have to be your views. This is just my views. I am not trying to impose anything on anybody. We should all be thinking for ourselves. These are just my views. So now I will continue this to answer this question. I just wanted to put that little disclaimer in there because I don't like when people talk and they try to put everything down as a matter of fact. I don't like listening to that, so I want to make sure that I'm not talking like that way. But in my humble opinion, I do not think that tarot predicts the future. I think that the closest thing to get to that would be that tarot predicts capabilities, right? It predicts capabilities, right? So yes, this reading may say this because that's probably a high capability, right? But if you take that advice, you integrate that capability might not happen because you took the advice and you integrated it, right? So it's not predicting the future, right? And again, this goes back to like tarot isn't spiritual. Tarot isn't this magical thing. It's just paper, ink, images, and symbols. That's it. Most of what you're getting from a reader or from tarot yourself, it's coming from you. The work is done within you. That is just the car. It needs you and it needs the knowledge, which is the key in order to use it.
What about the randomness of it? Like if you just picking a card, how can my subconscious know that was the card that I needed to see or study?
How could my subconscious know that was the card that I needed to see? I'm not sure that your subconscious did, right? I don't think so. You can shuffle your card 1,000 times. You might get the same card. You might get different cards, right? If you're doing it properly, you're not abusing it or anything like that. And, you're of right sound to mind and you're in tuned. I mean, all of those cards are going to be worth its weight in gold.
But
I'm not sure that your subconscious picked them.
That's what I mean. Is it random then? Is it a random? If I pick a card right now, is that random or is that card meant to be?
Are you describing random as like, as something that's just completely uncalculated?
Yeah, just luck. Going to a casino and
Well, I'm not sure if I believe in quote unquote luck or quote unquote randomness, right? I'm not quite sure I believe in that. I believe in chaos, sure, but everything's calculatable, right? If you're asking why did I pick that card, why did my subconscious pick that card, or why did I pick that card? Whatever the question is, and you wanted me to break down why, I could do that, sure, and I could probably come up with a really good answer, right? Is my answer correct? I don't know, but I could do that. I would say, okay, well, where are you? What's your address? What's your name? How do I spell your name? What time was it when you picked that card? And I could calculate every single dynamic of that situation. And I could tell you why you picked that card, right? Oh, it was Wednesday. That's a Mercury card. Wednesday is a Mercury card. Oh, your address converts to numbers. Those numbers added up actually is 8, and 8 correlates to this planet, right? So is it randomness? I don't think so. I don't really believe in randomness or luck.
But that's what I mean. But if I'm not looking at the card, it's sort of be redundant with it. But if I'm not looking at the card, how? Like I have no influence, or maybe I do. And I guess that's the question. I'm not looking at the card. It's the back of the card, and I pick that card, and that card happens to be the lovers or whatever it is. My subconscious didn't know, or did it? Like, you know what I mean? Like I want to see how I can trust something that is meant to be. Like if that card was meant to be, then it didn't matter if you shuffled it 10 times, like you said. That card was going to come out at that time, at that address, at that exact time, right? Or it's just random. I mean,
there's a lot of discernment in that, right? You can choose it to be meant to be, or you could choose it to be calculated, or you could choose it to be random. All three of those could be true. At the end of the day, does it actually matter which one it is? If you're still getting the results you're getting, no matter what label you put on it. Does it really matter if it was random, if it was destiny, or if it was calculated?
Yep. No, you're right. Same result.
Same
So
result, right? And you can, and that's it's your choice, right? How you want to view the world is completely up to you. If you want to view the world in a negative way and have everything out to get you and everything against you, that is the reality you're going to live in. This goes back to what I said before. The brain is very, very powerful, very powerful. You choose your own reality, and the way you view the world, that is your reality. So if you want to choose it to be destiny, great. I have no problem with that. It's destiny. That's awesome, right? If you choose you want it to be randomness, then it's randomness. That's awesome, right? But never forget, again, that the words that we choose to use and the labels that we choose to use, that is magic, right? That's magic. Words are magic, 100%, right? Every letter in the alphabet is a symbol, right? Symbols, as described in the Latin dictionary, is basically magic, right? When you put symbols together and they form a word, you are performing magic. It's a magic word. And what do I mean by that? Because words are very powerful. I can say certain words in a sentence and completely influence your entire point of view. Anybody could do this. You could use certain words in a sentence, and that sentence could be said 100 different ways. But because you're saying it in the way you're saying it with the words you're saying, you have effectively manipulated somebody because you use specific words, right? So when real light, good example, okay? The word conspiracy theory, very popular word nowadays because we got a lot going on, aliens and all kinds of shit. So the word conspiracy theory is a very powerful magic word, right? Because when you have a free thought or a free idea or a free theory that nobody is controlling where that came from, that's coming from your mind. It's like, oh, I think it's possible that there's aliens, living out in our universe, and I think we've had contact with them before. And somebody turns around and says, "No, it's conspiracy theory." But what the fuck is a conspiracy theory? Excuse my language.
no.
So you're saying that my idea is effectively null and void because you use the word conspiracy theory. So now, what if we had that word for everything? When Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, and somebody said, "Oh, it's conspiracy theory," would we have that theory today? Probably not, because you'd have 100,000 people on the internet saying that Einstein's theory of relativity is conspiracy theory, right? It's a word that shuts down the free thinking. So if you're in a room full of people and you're giving your idea and somebody says, "Oh, that's conspiracy theory," you probably shut down 99 of those people from ever even giving your theory a second thought because you use that word, right? Words are very, very, very powerful and they're magic, and they can be used to program your brain and program the people around you and change your reality.
And these words and symbols, that we know are like letters are like you were saying, that they're symbols. Do they need a recipient, or are you able to manipulate and influence energy around you without a recipient? Meaning, do you need someone to listen to these words, or are there other ways to influence without a recipient?
Yeah, both, right? You could point a gun at somebody and you could also point a gun at yourself.
So like if I look in the mirror and I tell me words, I can influence me.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. But also, like what I was trying to say before is like, if you want to say randomness, if you want to say destiny, if you want to say anything, you don't even need to say it out loud, right? Because you're thinking it, right? And you're changing the conceptual view and the constructed reality around you by using and subscribing to one of those words. If you're subscribing to randomness, that's a different reality. If you're subscribing to destiny, that's a different reality, right? So you're changing your reality from word to word. You're just making a decision, right? You asked like, "Oh, is it this? Is it that?" It's completely up to you because they're all leading the same way, right? But how you view everything, that's your reality. And that could be changed based upon what you're picking.
And could I embrace a set of actions based on those symbols. For example, just to throw like in the tarot, I get a reading and it tells me certain things. I might, now that I heard those things, start acting and behaving like those things will happen or are happening, or they were already happening and I just realized them, or it's kind of like a astrology. I'm Leo, so I'm supposed to be this and that and people person or whatever, and then I start becoming that because I'm trying to fit that identity that a Leo is supposed to have.
All of those things are true. They're all different paths, right? They're all different degrees, right? You bake a cake at 300 degrees, it's going to come out firm. You bake it at 200, it's going to be a little soggy in the middle, right? You're still going to have a cake. It's just going to be a little different, right? So yes, that they're all true, right? And you could go down each one of those paths. It's your choice. So if you get a reading and you decide to take the advice and you grow from it, that's a path. If you take a reading and you are so convinced that that is the reality and you can't change it, that's what your reality is. That's what's going to happen, right? And a lot of people do that. A lot of people do get a reading, and instead of like asking the appropriate follow-up question or asking the integral questions or how do I improve questions, they'll just take that and they'll be like, fine, whatever, I won't do that. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes there are situations where like, you have a situation like that where it'll be like, okay, well, if that's what's going to happen, what do I have to do to improve upon myself, or what is the question that I'm not asking that the information that I need to know, right? And then you get another answer, and then maybe that answer gives you clarity on that particular situation, or maybe it tells you, you know what, this really just isn't. It's not in the cards for you. It's not meant for you. And can you still change that? Sure, absolutely. There's nothing that a human being can't do, right? But when you get there, would it be everything you thought it was? Probably not. Will you stay there? Probably not. Right?
Can the tarot be wrong?
Can the tarot be wrong? Well, I don't see the tarot as something that's right or wrong, right? Let's say in a courtroom, right? We're not on trial, right? And it's not giving answers in the sense of answers. It's giving capability, right? It's telling you capability, right? With one of our other projects, we designed a software, right? It's called Aurora. This software studied over 1,600 data sets for murderers across the country, right? And we found certain signals in an astrology chart that can give a percentage of capability of somebody's being able to commit murder, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has a certain percentage based upon their astrology chart. Wow. So what the software does is when a murder happens and you have 50 suspects, you put all 50 suspects' birth information in there and it gives you a ranking. 60, 50, 40%. And then you could triage. Oh, I'm going to investigate the top to the bottom because the top is most likely, the bottom is least likely, right? It's capability percentage. Just because you have an 80% likelihood of committing this crime doesn't mean you actually committed the crime, right? You may have done the work. You may have strayed from the path that you could have gone down, right? Whereas somebody else might not have, right? You could share the exact same zodiac chart as Ted Bundy. It doesn't mean you're going to chop up your lovers and keep them in your house, right? You might have done the internal work, the shadow work to overcome that obsession with love, because that's part of that whole situation, right? You may have done that work, right? It just because you have those stars and you have those charts and you have those numbers and those degrees, and doesn't mean that you're actually going to do that or be that or this, that, and the third, right? It's all capability, right? So it's not necessarily a right or a wrong, right? That's a bit too concrete, narrow, to say that about tarot or astrology or numerology.
Well, could I ask a question like, I don't know, am I going to go to jail? I'm in the middle of a trial.
So if you're somebody who asked, I've been asked that question before. Sure. And you pull some cards and be like, yeah, it's a possibility. It's a possibility. Or nah, there's not that you're good. Then you come back next week and you ask that question again. It might change. You might have done something.
What if next week you are in jail, right? And call you from jail. Hey, right. I thought the tarot said that I wasn't coming into jail.
So let's say you're somebody who came in and says, "Oh, is it a possibility for me to go? Am I going to jail?" Blah blah blah. And the cards say no, and then you go out and kill somebody, very sloppy, and you're in jail, right? Were the cards right or were the cards wrong? Neither. The cards gave you a capability that, based on your current situation, based on your future projections of everything that's going on in your chart, right, from now until the next 100 years, doesn't look like you're going to jail, right? There's a capability there, and then you could change that. Like I said before, right? You could choose to integrate something, or you could choose to go against it, or you could choose to go forward it, right? So if you leave that reading and you go and start just committing crazy crimes because you think you're invincible, do you really think that you're not going to go to jail? Right? Or if you came a couple days later, right before you committed that crime, and you gave that reading, it would probably say you're going to go to jail because you had already had that intention.
But I'm saying, what if you're already on trial? Like, you just,
court cases. People ask questions about court cases all the time. Yeah, no, it can give you a capability percentage of what based on the current events, what might happen, right? Everything you do in between then can change that, right? Sometimes you can't change it. Sometimes you don't have the ability to change it. Sometimes they might ask a question like, what can I do to improve my odds, right? And then you could say, well, you got to do this, that, and the third. And that's integral work that you have to do. If you don't do that work, it's not going to come true.
So could I use tarot to, uncover hidden information? Like, is she cheating on me?
Sure. Yeah, I get that question a lot. That's a big one.
So exactly. So tell me about that. I mean, when we were talking about being wrong, I mean, if you go, okay, is she or he cheating on me, and the cards reveal that person is, what was the action to be taken there? Like, what, do I go now and confront this person? Like, hey, the tarot told me you're cheating on me.
Well, did you ask the cards what you should do? Did you ask the cards what do I need to work on? What's my path? Or are you only asking about this other person? Right?
So do you ever get tired? You just go, hey, this is about you, right? Not about them.
Nah, I don't really put too much input. Well, for one, I really don't do readings anymore. But when I did do, I don't put any input in there. I let the people say what they want to say. Right? I don't want to impose anything. Period. Right? And when I did do readings, I used a specific deck that had very clear pictures and very descriptive words, so that versus like a traditional deck where if somebody's seen like the Fool, they'd have no clue what the hell that means. They've no idea. Whereas like the version of the Fool in this deck is spread across a couple of different cards, and it would give like a really good answer, right? Like, if somebody asks something about a relationship, the card might be a raven on a skull that says loss, right? That's pretty common sense, right? You know what I'm saying? Whereas like maybe if I pulled the devil card, they probably have no clue, right? And the reason why I liked doing that is because I've had plenty of readings. I've done hundreds of readings given to me by other people. And a very, very large majority of them were absolute horseshit. Absolute horseshit. These people have no idea what they're doing. I can confidently say, out of the hundreds and hundreds of readings that I've been given over the course of 32 right now, I don't know, 20 years, there's 3 people that I would recommend to this day. That's it. That's it. Because I know that they're legit, right? And it's very easy to be a charlatan with tarot cards. You could spew any kind of bullshit you want and people will listen. You know, that's basically being a con artist. And you could be a con artist with anything. You know, anything can be manipulated, right? The Bible can be manipulated. You could be a con artist priest, right? You could run a church and just spit out lines from the Bible and collect money at the end of the service and go to the strip club after. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of it. A lot of it has abuse, and a lot of readings that I've personally ran into weren't legit.
Happens a lot in religion with the double standard. So then, if anything can be manipulated, what's the difference between, let's say, a magic 8 ball and tarot?
What do you mean by magic 8 ball?
You know, like that little ball that I don't know if you've ever seen it. You shake it and you ask a question and it'll say
Oh,
not
the
likely.
toy.
Yeah, the toy.
Okay. What's the difference between the two?
Yeah. They're both under the same. Can they both be seen as equal in answers, or does the tarot have a
No.
special?
No way.
Yeah.
The tarot has 78 cards. You're not getting. Each card can give 100 different answers, maybe more. Right? Can the 8 ball do that? Probably not. I think one of the things on the 8 ball say try again or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So try again. No way.
Yeah. Well, no one's developed the tarot 8 ball. You know, where you just go. You know.
Well, they have tarot dice that has all 78 cards. You know, and you roll the dice, and you can do that. There's runes. Runes are pretty old. Those work very well. Usually inscribed on bones, and you could throw those. There's sticks. There's tea leaves. There's all different modalities of readings. Right? There's all different kinds of tools. But you know what I was trying to get at earlier is all of these things. They're all pretty much the same. Right? It's like, you know, you have a Ferrari, you have a truck, you have a bus, you have a sedan, you have a minivan. It's like all these different tools, but they all do the same thing, right? The wheels spin and they get you places, right? But they're different tools.
Got it. So like even the get a flower and you go, he loves me not, she loves me, loves me not. That's an old school one. Okay, so and I love your hat, by the way, Killer Kards. So I was looking at your website. Those are really, actually, by the way, the Aurora software, like very Minority Report scary, because I see where that could go. I mean,
that's why it's very important that we understand that it's capability. Everything can be abused, right? And trust me, I had the idea in my head. It's like, oh, if this gets into the wrong hands, somebody could use this as like locking people up before they actually committed a crime because they think they're dangerous. But the problem with that is they would have to lock up everybody because the percentage of the population that actually has a 0% capability is so small. It's not possible. It's simply not possible.
There's people that have 0?
Yeah. There's archetypes, there's people who, if their life depended on it, they would not be able to kill another person. Period. The end. If they had the means, the strength, the energy, everything available in front of them, they would not be able to do it. Period.
Wow. What about protecting their kids or something like that? No.
There's also people that are just like what I just said, but if it was a loved one, they would. So they wouldn't do it to save their own life, but they would do it to save a loved one's life.
Wow. I didn't know. Well, those people won't go to jail. But yeah, like I wouldn't want the government implementing your Aurora. Not yet, at least. I think there's some, you know, because also proof, right? The tarot is telling you this, but the proof comes after, in my opinion, where, like I said, is it cheating on me? Yes, no. That's not proof yet. It's sort of like a guidance system. Would you agree? And with the killer cards, like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, where did that come about, and where do you see that going?
So, I spoke a little bit about it before. So, one of the the social problems I wanted to tackle, right, and put my input into was that people interested in tarot who use tarot aren't doing the shadow work. Okay, that was one. The second was true crime and serial killers is so popular and such an insane part of our culture that the number one podcast, the number one TV show, the number one movies are all true crime serial killer themed, right? So a large portion of people are ingesting this material. Me personally, never been interested. Still not really interested. But people are. And the problem that I've seen is that people were glorifying these serial killers for these crimes that they have done. And you see this everywhere. I mean, you look at, Ted Bundy documentary, I think they use Zac Efron. Why are you using a teenage, a teenage female's like number one googly-eyed celebrity?
Yeah.
Like it's wrong. I understand the business aspect. You wanted to make money. You wanted to sell those tickets. So yeah, you're going to cast that guy, right? But it's all geared towards pretty much glorification, right? Also, what about the victims? What about the people and the families that have suffered from these things? So I wanted to kind of tackle all of those problems in one stone. Basically, I wanted to kill three birds with one stone. And with Killer Kards, that's exactly what we did. Because when you take serial killers and when you take anybody, it doesn't matter who you are, and you calculate their tarot cards, because everybody has a set of birth cards, everybody has a set of soul cards, right? Those cards are your cards. You can't pick them. They are what they are. So when we calculated the serial killers, it gives you their card, and their card is directly correlated to the life that they live and what we know about them. They're the shadow side of that card. They're what happens when that card goes wrong. When the lovers goes wrong, when the devils goes wrong, when the tower goes wrong. They are the living or deceased or jailed examples of that shadow side, right? So it takes that glorification aspect and it completely disassembles it, right? So now you have these people who are interested in true crime that are being forced to actually learn the who, what, where, and why, and how these archetypes and these things that are inside this person are also inside you, but you have chosen a different path, right? So you may get the lovers and the devils, your birth card. Jeffrey Dahmer may have the lovers and devils birth card, but you chose differently. You did differently. You integrated differently, right? So it's forcing you to do that shadow work. So whether you're interested in tarot or you're interested in true crime and you bought that deck, you're now effectively doing two things. You're doing the shadow work that you probably never wanted to do, and you're not even realizing that you're doing the shadow work. And three, you're actually learning something of what you should learn about these crimes and these situations. And then four, every single deck, a portion of it gets donated to charity. We've donated to date probably over $3,000 so far across the country. So that was kind of like what I wanted to do with that project. And that's the social issues that I was trying to tackle and improve the world with.
Wow, that's very deep. And can I get those cards at your website? Is it Killer Kards? How do I get there?
Yeah. So killerkardstarot.com. You can pre-order a second edition deck right now because we are completely sold out. We sold out. I didn't expect to. I thought we were going to have at least a year before we sold out. We sold out in like 3 months.
Wow.
People are already selling this deck on eBay for like $1,000. It's ridiculous. So you can pre-order a second edition. However, I believe right now, today is Wednesday, July 29th at 7:45 p.m. I believe there's 40 first edition decks still available on TikTok Shop. And don't quote me on that because probably by the time this comes out, those will be gone, right? But there are about 40 left on TikTok Shop. But as far as our website goes, we're completely sold out. We have nothing left. If you order, it's going to be a second edition deck, which is a little bit more improved, and it's a little bit of nicer quality. But that won't ship to you until September.
Got it. And what about that other one that you mentioned about the shadow work?
That's the Killer Kards.
Oh, okay. So okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
We have another deck coming out in September as well that also tackles a different set of social issues. Give you a little bit of information on that without giving away too many of the secrets, because it's the reason why I'm able to tell you so much about the Killer Kards now is because we're already sold out. The effect is already there. People are realizing now that like what we did, like we effectively forced people into doing shadow work. We forced people into doing the hard work when it comes to true crime instead of just shock value and entertainment and glorification. So with this new deck that's coming out called Circuits of Consciousness, with this deck, one of the issues that I wanted to tackle is the whole AI craze. There's like people are torn between AI is good, AI is bad. People are absolutely losing their minds on the internet and on social media whether something is AI or not, right? I see a lot of good artists and good musicians who will post an amazing piece of work, and you'll have 10 idiots in his comment section saying this is AI slop, this is AI, don't buy this song, blah 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 blah, and it's not AI, right? So it's AI has created such a psychosis with people that they're not able to tell whether something is AI or not, right? So when we did this deck, and I'm only telling you a portion of the things that we've done, there's another really big part about this deck that is like a little bit of a secret right now. But when we did this deck, we initially started illustrating. We got up to like 20 cards, and we were using like a realism type of illustration. So we were like painting it in a realistic way. So like not 100% like a photograph, but like hyper realistic. We were painting it, and we stopped because I had this idea. Let's start over. Let's paint these pictures to look like that they are AI generated, so that when people see this deck, they think it's AI generated. And when they click on the link and they find out that it was illustrated to look like AI, then they have to think twice the next time they want to make a comment or say something stupid on somebody's post. And then there's a whole other parts of that I have to keep a secret, because we want that to be a surprise when it comes out.
Oh, that's cool. That is. I can see that. It's like, yeah, and you're right. Like that psychosis, people are losing their minds, and it's creating even more doubt, right? Because if you have a doubt, and then someone else points out another doubt, and now we don't believe anything. But in a way, we're believing what we shouldn't believe, right? Because the government is, for example, a lot of government stuff, we don't question if it's AI, right? We're like, no, how could they, right? Like we believe what we want.
The easiest man to control is a man who believes in nothing. Absolutely. So if you believe in nothing and you have doubt everywhere and you have no idea what's real, you are an absolute puppet. You are an absolute puppet. And that is of great use to governments, right? Because you'll just trot along to anything that's said. Or maybe you won't. Maybe you have no idea. Maybe you think nothing's real and nothing's true. And you're just very easily controlled that way.
Absolutely. No, and this has been great. So here, I'm going to give you a list of concepts, right? And you tell me if they're real to you or not, right? And there's no right or wrong, obviously. This is just your opinion. So soulmates.
You're asking me if they're real?
Are they real? Do they exist? Do we have a soulmate?
Sure, depends on the definition, but yes.
Yeah, so me that there's that one person that is just for you, that's just meant to be.
Sure, yeah.
Manifestation, real or not?
Yeah, it's action, yes.
Astrology.
It's patterns, it's real.
Synchronicity.
Synchronicity is meaning, yes.
Free will.
Absolutely, it's limited, but sure.
Karma?
It's just consequences. Yeah.
Love at first sight?
Usually projection.
Twin flames?
It depends on the definition, but yes,
Ghost?
probably.
Destiny. And let me tell you a little something about
Destiny's
destiny.
basically, okay, I was going to say it's basically direction.
Well, I was going to say, because we talked about it in the beginning, I believe that if you believe destiny's real, it's a contradiction to think that you control anything, right? Because destiny is just meant.
Not necessarily. It's direction, right? Remember how we were talking about the different paths, the different words? So no, it can be both real and not real. It's your decision. But at the end of the day, if you choose for it not to be destiny, it's still direction, right? You're still going to be going somewhere, right? It just happens to be, it's your preference, right? So yeah, destiny's real, right? But it's direction. Direction would just be another word for it.
But if I don't want to get old, for example, like,
okay,
my destiny is to get old. Like,
maybe. Old how? Old how?
Just age and
physically, mentally,
in all ways. If decay, where you not walking.
You could be old in the body and young in the mind. You could be old in the mind and young in the body.
Well, do you believe there's a destiny that we're all going to die?
A destiny that we're all going to die? Well, I think there's a direction that we're all heading, and eventually we quote unquote die, depending on your definition. Right? That's a direction. We're all heading towards this direction of this quote unquote death, right? Because we don't, apparently, our physical bodies here don't last forever, right?
So can
apparently,
I move it?
That's what we do.
Can I move that outcome?
The outcome of you dying?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, absolutely, you can. But that's going to be direction, and that's going to be your view and your reality, right? Because I know that I'm not dying, right? I'm just moving on to the next, right? I don't die. My physical body, that might die. But like me, like I'm not dying, right? So in effectiveness, I don't die, right? But if your view of death is this physical appearance, the ego, and so on and so forth, yeah, you're going to die. It's all view. It's all your view, your reality, and your direction.
The thing about, we have never had proof. I believe the same thing, but we never had any proof that that we continue on, right? Like
I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that would point
we
to
can
the
believe
direction that it's certainly a possibility. I've seen plenty of stuff that would point the scientific mind to, or the combative mind to argue that it's possible. Sure, absolutely. Why are there some cases where there's young children who remembered that they were murdered in a past life, and then they solved the crime based on what the children said? Why are there young children that remember entire past lives? Why do we have, ancient and mythological structures and manuscripts and scripts and Bibles and texts that describe this kind of thing? Right?
So am I meeting, if I meet a woman, to take it back to seduction, this is someone that I could have interacted with in past lives?
That's absolutely possible. 100%. Maybe it was your sister. Maybe it was your mother. Maybe it was your brother. Maybe it was your dog. Who knows? I don't know. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, hopefully not my dog or my sister. But you've been great. But speaking of old, can you leave us with a little bit? Once you leave this plane, whether it's to your next life or whatever it is, what do you hope you have accomplished What's your legacy that you intend to leave humanity with all the work that you're doing?
I would just hope that I did the best that I could do and to my maximum capability. That I gave it my all and all my effort, and that I made some people feel good, and I helped some people, and I gave people some good memories. You know, I think that's pretty simple.
Do you believe you're accomplishing that right in this moment?
Definitely, I'm 32 years old. I lived a long life. I had a lot of good friends. I'm sure that I hold a lot of great spaces and a lot of memories.
That's a great way to look at it, where you uh, just want to leave great memories. And if we all lived that way, I think there would be less serial killers and so on. Or do you
Maybe
think?
it might be a utopia. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you believe in a utopia?
No, no,
It
utopia
can
is
never
not
happen.
possible. No, there's no such thing.
Okay, so
Not here.
no.
There might be a different reality, different dimension. I have no idea, but certainly not here. No, certainly not here. You can turn here into your utopia by changing your reality and creating your utopia vision and your utopia reality based upon how you think and the words you use and the things you do.
But I have a problem with that. I'm taking your advice right now. That's why I'm answering, because what you just said resonated. But my problem is that I feel like whenever I create a utopia or I go in that path, I am actually ignoring or distracting myself from the real reality. Like, yeah, I'm living in this world that's great for me, but I'm really just blind to the struggle outside of me, if
There's
that
a
makes sense.
difference between pretending and doing, right? There's a difference between wearing a mask and not wearing a mask. So if you're out there doing that and you're pretending, how do you expect it to be anything but pretend, right?
Yeah, well, if I'm doing everything that and that's another thing, my utopia might be different than yours. Like what I would want in my world, in my perfect world, would be certain things that not everyone may want in their world. So in order for me to create that world, then I have to uh, shut out things that don't fit here. Like for example, there's no homeless people in my world. So in order
Okay,
for me to,
you're,
yeah,
you're talking you're talking very externally, right? When I said you create your utopia, your reality, right? That's within you, right? That's not erasing homelessness off the face of the earth. That's not what that is, right? You could tackle that within your utopia. Perhaps make an extra lunch tomorrow and give it to the first homeless person you see. Sure. But I'm talking about within yourself. You create your utopia, your reality, right? That's not going to change the fact that there's a homeless guy on the street, right? You could change your view about the homeless guy on the street, right? You can make up a whole storyline based upon the people who are homeless living on the street. That you could do. But changing it to where like there is no homeless people on the street, that's you're talking about Mickey Mouse. You know what I'm saying? That's not a
yeah,
thing.
or delusional, because sometimes
Mhm.
we can't ignore. Maybe that's a huge problem, but we can ignore problems within our own selves that we know are an issue we need to solve, and we just kind of put it away or ignore it, or I don't know. Maybe you have a friendship that's broken that you feel like it shouldn't be, and instead of you reaching out or talking to that person, you choose to. I'm just in my happy world, like I don't need to tackle that
That's
problem.
something that's something completely different. That's doing the opposite of what shadow work is supposed to be, right? So shadow work would tell you to rectify that. The opposite of that would be to bury it down, right? And that could cause a lot of problems. That could cause problems mentally just as well as physically, right? Maybe you start binge eating. Maybe you hold that ball in so long that you develop a cancer, right? That could manifest in a million different ways. But that's definitely not what we're trying to say here, right? Because that's the opposite of shadow work. Burying it down, that's the complete opposite.
That's great. So how do people contact you if they wanted to, or I mean, you don't do readings anymore. Is there a reason you don't, or if
I just
someone
got
offers you
really,
that, what if somebody
I got
comes
really
and offers
tired
you
of it.
a lot of money?
Yeah.
Like, look, I got thousands of dollars. Give me a reading.
No,
I'll do it.
not for money, but I just got tired of doing it realistically. But I do still do them occasionally, like, hanging out with friends and stuff, and somebody asks, and I'm up for it. Sure. Not if somebody comes, knocks on my door and says, hey, here's $10,000. I need you to do a reading. Like, I'm going to say no, because it's not about the money really. But other than that, if people want to contact me, you go to my website, courageovercomfortco.com. You could also catch us on TikTok, Courage Over Comfort 444, or on Instagram, Courage Over Comfort. Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing readings, but if you want to buy a deck or buy a book or something like that, or you just want to see what we're up to, drop us an email, follow us on social media.
In the future, would you consider doing maybe workshops to show people tarot? Since it seems like you outgrown it, if from my perspective.
To teach it?
Yeah, I think that you've outgrown the individual readings, and I think that you would you consider teaching as a next step?
Yeah, so we have a teaching product coming out. We do have a class coming out too. So we have like a whole educational course that's coming out probably next year, where we basically break down everything of tarot, everything of astrology, everything of numerology, psychology, science, everything. We break down everything. And it's a very long course. It'll be on YouTube. It's free. We're not charging for it. Literally, it's going to be completely free. There's not going to be no paywall. But we do have a product that's also coming out next year that's titled the Tarot, and it's a children's tarot. So it's the actual traditional Rider-Waite tarot, but it's illustrated in children's book style cards. Right. So the cards are appeal to a child. Right.
That's so cool.
And with that deck also comes a storybook. Storybook has a story for each card. The story teaches a child the moral lessons of of that individual tarot card. So if it's the Fool, it's going to teach them the moral lessons of the Fool, the shadow side of the Fool, the yeses, the nos, the do's, the don'ts. So it's teaching children important moral lessons in life without having to go through spirituality or religion, because those can be very convoluted. So it'll instill these moral lessons early, as well as also fundamentally teach the child how to use tarot. Because if they're growing up with these bedtime stories and they become of age and they still have this deck, they're going to understand every part of that card and every part of that deck, because they remember the children's stories. They remember the lessons, the story of the Fool almost jumping off the cliff, right? They're going to remember these things.
That is so cool. Children's tarot, even though I think it might have some parents. It's a well, to me, tarot is very powerful. I think, should it be in the hands of children? What do you think?
Sure, children are the most innocent people, and they're the most innocent, untainted.
Yeah. But what about the power? It's power if you don't really fully understand it.
There's no power in tarot. The power comes from you.
Wow. Great. That's a great response. Thank you so much, Christian. Really, really appreciate you being here and helping us. I'm sure we're all enlightened. And actually, I'm probably got like 10,000 new questions that I need to shadow work myself through because you made so much sense. I wasn't expecting you to, and now I gotta you know, like it's like the reflection, right? Like it just like the bullet ricochets, and it's like, wait, I gotta. There's things I gotta work within me here. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for all the great work you do, and hopefully you continue doing this, and you reach the level that I already see that you're going, and then the way your mind works is very, very, very special. So hopefully you can continue sharing with us for many, many years. Like I said, you're only 32, so well, you got like another 150 years to go.
Yeah.
So good
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely. Hopefully. Thank you
Uh,
very much for having me. I
all right.
appreciate it.
All right.
This was an awesome time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christian.